You did. You
You
totally
did
did.
actually.
I feel like the conversation was in conjunction to your feelings about being on.
Well, no. Well, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I can speak to that. So, for people who may just be listening to this episode and didn't hear that one, so what I think about it, I'll graduate. I'll be out of grad school next year, and so I'll be able to call myself official. Thank you. I'll officially be a psychologist once I graduate.
And that's
I'll be legally be able to call myself a
I'm
psychologist.
trying to
after
get
I
free
graduate.
therapy already.
And okay. So psychology and mental health can be a pretty conservative environment, depending on like the modality that people use or like the setting that they're in. And so for a very long time, I was trained to be as a blank slate, right? That like you don't give patients or clients any information about you because it can interrupt or disrupt the care, right? But that's just one way of operating, right? And what I think has been really helpful is like what I see in my friendships or what I've experienced in 12th step and other situations. It's where like you bring yourself to the table, right? Like you bring yourself to the conversation, because then there isn't like a power dynamic, right? Like literally, like the way I try to think about things is, if we're talking about like being authentic, is like we're literally humans, like just on the earth, you know what I mean? And like what we do for work, in my opinion, is kind of like how we entertain ourselves before we die, you know? And so like if that's the way I'm seeing it, like if I'm seeing us like we're just humans kind of doing people together, that's a very different way of arriving in relationship than like I'm the authority, you're the patient, right? And so that's what I was thinking about. So, but the last thing is about like being authentic is like, we talk about like really racy things on here sometimes, or like things that are controversial. And sometimes I've thought about like, is this going to get me in trouble? You know what I mean? Am I going to foreclose on certain opportunities because of like the opinions I have or like the way I show up into the space? And where I've arrived with that is like, I don't want to work in an environment where this is problematic. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So that's where I was coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since I moved to the Bay Area, I have to say there's definitely been a culture shift. I spent most of my adult life in the East Coast working in healthcare, which is a very, very super conservative environment, run by like middle management is all women, and then upper management tends to be all male, right? Still, right? And so for me, the experience coming here, it was such a culture shock, and so on so many levels, but in a good way, because here there's number one, there's a lot more diversity. There's a lot more openness, and you can have conversations with people, difficult conversations with people, and have it not blow up and have it not like ruin your whole like work relationship and upset the apple cart at work like forever, right?
Right.
So I feel like I'm much I feel like I'm more grounded here for some reason at work.
Yeah.
It feels really good. And just in general, like out in the world here in the Bay Area, because there's so much diversity and acceptance, which that was not my experience working on the East Coast as much.
I hear that.
I was going to.
Oh, we have a comment.
We have a comment. Right, great.
Yeah. Ben Breeze. So, love you all so much. I've heard it described as threading the needle, showing up authentically and the true to yourself while also meeting the demands of the systems we work in. Ooh, can you say more about that, Ben?
Yeah, and I feel like it depends. Like, I think that we have to figure out with regards to work and how we show for work, what it actually means to be authentic. Because, like, just because in my mind, I could be like thinking, oh, I'm authentic because I'm a bad bitch and I curse and I'm this and that, whatever. That's not, no.
I'm an authentic. Yeah.
For me, number one, I feel like obviously because I'm never going to achieve the kind of perfection that I want to, what has been most effective is finding a person that I can trust.
Oh, at work?
At work.
Oh, yeah.
That I can be myself, because I think that typically code switching is something that a lot of people of color do, but I think we all do it. We all do a form of code switching where I will turn it on depending on what the situation is. And I think that when I get to a place where I don't feel like I need to do it, I think that's when I'm being my most authentic self, where I can be because for me and the current job, if I had just not gotten in management and stayed doing exactly what I love to do, I would have been just fine. The problem is now I have to take into consideration other people's stuff. You know, I think when you move up to management, middle, or wherever, you all of a sudden the code switching comes into play, and you have to be considerate of other people and all that good stuff.
Well, I like what Anko was saying about like boundaries at work. And so boundaries are in place, obviously. Like boundaries are protective, right? We put boundaries around things that need protection, right? That's what a boundary is, right? There's a thing on the other side of the boundary that needs to be protected. And so obviously, like when you're in certain environments, there are boundaries in order to keep like a workspace cohesive and flowing, right? And I have certainly had the experience where you're friends with someone at work and then those boundaries start to get blurred.
Oh God.
Right. And to me, and I've experienced this like recently. She doesn't listen to the podcast, but so I experienced recently where like I'm really good friends with someone who is an authority figure in my work context. And then we're friends until like she pulls rank. And then that feels very, it's kind of humiliating. It feels like infantilizing. And it's like, you know, there's like, it almost feels like an abuse of power because it's like, oh, it's okay if I act out of line or if we're like looser on our boundaries, but you get to determine when those boundaries are in place, right? And so it does get very tricky at work, right? And, you know, then there's also kind of like, you know, you can make a joke at work, but the second, like, say something goes sour with you with someone else, then you know they can make they can use it against you.
Yeah. No, exactly. It's like, especially depending on how you feel about the person, because as to the authority situation, whenever you are upwardly kind of someone who is ambitious, and you may have a close friend or whatever that you work with who may not be interested in doing any, and then you take that higher position and then have to deal with. For me, it's always been that I'm such a Virgo.
We're back to that.
No, it's black or white. Like the way for me, and this is what has gotten me in trouble. My thinking is like, I try to think about like, okay, what do I need to do? What, you know, as far as what's my responsibility, and there shouldn't be any gray areas. And that's where I get in trouble. Meaning, like, the relationships aren't nuanced. I treat everybody the same way.
Yeah,
I'm kind of like non-thinking, non-feeling, kind of a computer.
You have such gentle eyes.
Oh my God, it's like you wouldn't know that the way you come from me. I thought it was like I'm all.